Andy Enfield is about to lose one of his longtime assistants and associate head coach. Is it the beginning of the end for Andy Enfield at SMU?
You are Locked On SMU, your daily podcast on the SMU Mustangs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Locked On SMU on this Friday edition. We'll answer that question here in just a moment. My name is Grayson Singleton. So glad you're joining me today and making us your first listen. Our episode is brought to you by Mazda. We put that same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment, putting in the work, that defines you. Stay tuned for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you. Also coming up on the show today is SMU building a new young core of wide receivers through the 2026 and 2027 recruiting classes. And is there a new basketball standard here on the Hilltop? One of the players thinks so, and I'll tell you why I do as well. But let's get started with the breaking news from yesterday that Chris Capko, the associate head coach for Andy Enfield and SMU, is being hired away by Ball State. Now, this is a normal thing when you have a coach that identifies another coaching talent, brings him up through the ranks, coaching underneath him, maybe brings him to a new school, and you have success. Eventually, your assistants are going to get poached. And it's a credit to Andy Enfield, really, that Chris Capko is being hired away and getting an opportunity as a first-time head coach at Ball State. Chris Capko has been with Andy Enfield forever, was made his associate head coach back when they were at USC, and has been serving as his associate head coach for almost a decade now. And this is a big loss. It's a really big loss because as the associate head coach, Chris Capko was a guy that Andy Enfield was talking to all the time during huddles. Even when the game was going on, you could see on TV Chris Capko and Andy Enfield having conversations. Like, Capko was very much involved in what was going on with Andy Enfield's operation. And when you lose a voice like that, sure, it's not a death sentence, but we're already kind of questioning what type of coach Andy Enfield is, regardless of his resume, to the point where we have to ask the question, well, if you're losing a top-ranked assistant, are things going to get any better? It's a reasonable thing to ask. And now Andy's going to have to do it again in terms of identifying another coaching talent, putting him in the proper position, maybe elevating somebody else. Oh, and by the way, you're going to have to make another hire. So you're likely going to see an elevation from within for whoever's going to be the next associate head coach. Then you'll have to make a hire, maybe from the outside, maybe elevating a much lower level assistant to fill that vacant spot on the staff now. So it's going to be another twist in another offseason that needs to be busy for SMU. But here's what I would like to see happen. I would like to keep the continuity at the top of the bench, meaning go ahead and promote somebody from within to that associate head job. You've already done it once if you're Andy Enfield. And everything points to you went 1-for-1 there. Because if you get to the NCAA tournament and then that guy becomes a head coach, that's a successful promotion to associate head coach. Andy Enfield promoted Capko before the 2021-2022 season when the pair was still at USC. Since then, they've been to 3 NCAA tournaments together in 5 years. So that's a success. Twice at USC and now once here with SMU. So that's a success with those two being the pairing. As for an out-of-building hire, here's what they need to do. Dallas-Fort Worth is a breeding factory, not just for football players, but there's a lot of basketball, a lot of really good basketball in the DFW area. I would like to see Andy Enfield go the RHETT LASHLEE route and get somebody on staff who is familiar and deeply entrenched in the high school ranks in the state of Texas. That's where I want to see him go. Because I praised RHETT LASHLEE to no end for this. Riley Dodge, all the South Oak Cliff assistants joining the football staff. Andy Enfield needs to do that. Ingratiate yourself with the community. Get guys who can be a middleman for you between kids who are familiar with that guy and Andy Enfield himself, and really be an ambassador and the voice of the program for the SMU Mustangs basketball squad. Now, they've done a decent job with this already in terms of getting dudes from the Dallas area, Jaden Toombs notwithstanding. Cam Lomax, who's gonna join the team here soon, next year, is a guy that fits that billing, right? So, and then by the way, you got Billy White to reclassify as well. Now, he's not from Dallas, but he's from the state of Texas. So they've already done a decent job with this, but I would love to see you get a dude who, yes, knows his basketball, obviously, but I want to see a dude that knows kids and knows the kids from the area. Because here's what I think is going to happen. I think with football, that's going to breed a lot of success for SMU. If this thing really works out with all the DFW assistants from the high school ranks that RHETT LASHLEE identified and hired, if this works out, he will have multiple liaisons in the DFW area to advocate for him and his program that I think it's going to breed continual ACC championship game talks for RHETT LASHLEE and the football team. I think Andy can do the same thing. I think the same thing can be true with Andy Enfield. Now, is basketball talent more spread out evenly around the country than football? Yes, it is. Like, you don't have as big of an advantage in DFW in basketball as you do in football. Like, it's a lot more skewed in football. Basketball is played almost the same way and to the same quality all over the country. So it doesn't mean as much, but here's the thing. If you can prioritize Dallas-Fort Worth area recruiting, who still have a ton of good players, a ton of ACC caliber players, it makes your life so much easier. It makes your life easier. It makes it easier on the budget because you're not flying to all corners of the globe trying to get dudes. So, and it's just simple. It's a simple mechanism of recruiting that if you can nail down that, you'll be in a good spot. You will be in a good spot if you can nail down your backyard. So, even though Andy's losing an assistant, I don't believe this is the beginning of the end. Because he's already made one good judgment call on who his associate head coach should be. And it's been a good one. 5 years since Chris Capko became his associate head coach. 3 NCAA tournament appearances at 2 institutions, by the way, that don't consistently go to the NCAA tournament historically. USC, look at the history. It's not a constant. USC's in the NCAA tournament. That's a football school. SMU, it's kind of the same way. So 3 years since he became the associate head coach, or 5 years, 5 years since he became the associate head coach, 3 NCAA tournament appearances and an NIT. So he's already made one good judgment call. I'm willing to see, can he make another one? And then I would like to see him go out, get somebody from the high school ranks that knows the state of Texas and more intimately the DFW area, and we can see if we're rocking from there. All right, coming up next, Locked On SMU continues. Are the Mustangs building something really cool at wide receiver in the 26 and 27 classes? I'll tell you why I think that is next. This is Mazda's moving the game forward for those who show there's more to the score than what's on the screen. These moments remind us of what it really takes to raise the bar. It's that extra work off the court, dialing in every detail, giving it that extra fire, and that grit that says, I never quit. for this time's moving the game forward, y'all watched the NCAA tournament yesterday. How about the work that Siena did? Even though they didn't win the game over Duke, they played 5 starters for all 40 minutes. Unheard of in college basketball. And they had Duke down by double figures at the beginning of the game. So what work goes off the court to make that happen? And also all that conditioning, because even though they got tired at the end, they were still playing solid basketball. We put that same passion into every model. Highlights make the reel. What it took to get there, that's what makes it count. Because there's more to a Mazda, because there's more to you. College basketball is nonstop. Big games, tight spreads, momentum swings every single night. From early tip-offs to late-night West Coast shootouts, there's always action on the board. And now FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into even bigger potential wins with a college basketball parlay profit boost. You can build any college hoops parlay you want. Rivalry games, ranked matchups, whatever floats your boat. And you can mix spreads, totals, and props to see how you see the slate playing out. And then all you got to do after that is apply the profit boost to instantly bump up the potential payout. Go safe, go bold, or ride with the team you've been following all season long. It's your parlay, your style, and now with even more upside behind it. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game. All right, welcome back to the show, Locked On SMU. Hey, make sure you get your first month free of the Everydayer Club when you use code MARCH when you sign up. You'll unlock ad-free episodes and entry into our private listener group chat where you can hang out with us and we can talk about SMU basketball even more. Check the link in the show notes or go to lockedonsmu.supercast.com to claim your free month. Grayson Singleton back with you, Locked On SMU. Make sure you subscribe to the channel on YouTube as well at Locked On SMU. Okay, the Mustangs are leading for a pretty cool prospect in the class of 2027. As a matter of fact, the predictions are not officially in, but I would expect this to happen pretty soon. 4-star Tyler, Texas wide receiver Trey Harrelson, a 6'1" guy, 185 pounds, is heavily leaning toward SMU. As a matter of fact, he told On3 that SMU is his number one. And it's curious to me because if you're the Mustangs, obviously you lost Jordan Hudson and Romello Brinson after this past football season. So you're going to need to rebuild that wide receiver core, and they bring in Yannick Smith. Jalen Cooper seems like he's got a lot of promise and a lot of upside. Carterius Brown, we'll see what he can bring this year as well. But the last 3 recruiting cycles, possibly including 2027, could be the big reset for SMU wide receivers that the Mustangs need. Because if you can get a lot of these homegrown dudes that can all turn into reliable and even superstar players at the college level, Rob Likens, take a bow. Because you, sir, are doing work. So in 2025, they signed Carterius Brown and Jalen Cooper, both of whom I think have a lot of promise. 2026 class that we have not seen on the field yet: Alger Miles, Ja'Kai Anderson, Ty Creathers. Pretty good haul. And now in 2027, it looks as like they're in really good shape to get Trey Harrelson. Trey Harrelson, by the way, was a Tyler, Texas teammate of one Derek McFall, who has stuck around the SMU program. So there's a little bit of a connection there. But this is really important to me because if you can home grow these dudes, and then whoever takes the reins at quarterback, having grown along with all of them, now you've got something brewing that could be potentially special. You could have Ty Hawkins in the 2027 season throwing to Jalen Cooper, who he came into college with, throwing to Alger Miles, who was a year behind him, and a Ja'Kai Anderson, potentially as well. That's huge, and that is special if you can build something like that, because sure, you can go pick a guy from the transfer portal here, pick a guy from the transfer portal there, but it just has more upside and more connectivity when you just bring all the guys up when you sign them from high school. Not to mention, by the way, it's cheaper to do so because you're always going to pay a higher premium to sign an established commodity out of the transfer portal than you would if you develop and retain. So from a financial standpoint, this also is the much more feasible way to go, even though if SMU needs to, they can go get somebody from the portal because they got money. But if you're looking at, and I know a lot of people that watch this will think like this, well, I want to see the same guys who have been there for all 4 years. And I'm with you on that. I think it's special to see dudes grow up together and establish that bond together and represent the school for multiple years on end. I'm with you. So this is a big deal. If that's something that you value. If this is something that you value, going potentially from freshman to senior year, this is going to be a really cool story. And Rob Likens, by the way, has shown with guys that he's gotten out of the portal that he can get something out of you. Right? He may have turned, even though it's not likely, he may have turned Jordan Hudson into a draft pick. It would be a late round pick, but he may have turned him into a draft pick. What about Romello Brinson? I think Romello's going to get a chance. And they had several wide receivers before that got a chance in the league. So SMU is slowly rising in terms of what they can do for a kid at the wide receiver position. So if you can imagine and project forward to 2000 and let's just say 28. Ty Hawkins probably in his final year. A veteran Jalen Cooper, if he's still here. A veteran Ja'Kai Anderson and Alger Miles. Sound pretty good to me. And that if you can get this kid, Trey Harrelson, to go ahead and lock it down, you're going to be in good shape. By the way, all these dudes have really good size on them. Have you noticed this? Alger Miles is about 6'2", 6'3". Ja'Kai Anderson is about 6 foot. Ty Creathers, who they also signed in the 2026 class, 6 foot. Both Carterius Brown and Jalen Cooper have good size on them. And Trey Harrelson right now, going into his senior year, is 6'1". So they're going to have a receiving core that's got very good size on them, which means your quarterback doesn't have to be perfect. Just get it there. Kids with long arms, long frames can get it done. So no matter which way you slice it and no matter how you look at this, this looks pretty solid on the surface for SMU. I'm digging what they're doing right now. I really, really am, man. So all that said, I think the Mustangs are going to be in a good spot. And I think that as they continue to build for the future, post Kevin Jennings, right? Post resurgence back into the national scene, SMU's got themselves in a pretty solid spot. And I like where this is going. All right, one more segment here on Locked On SMU. One of the players says there's a new standard of SMU basketball, and I agree. Coming up next. You wouldn't show up on game day without a plan, and you wouldn't show up to a job without the right parts. That's why putting Supply House in your starting lineup is always the right call. 300,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products, 500 tried and true brands, and 90% of the country is in the 1 to 2 day delivery zone. Need a last minute coupling, a compressor, a press tool? They've got it, and they'll get it to you quickly. They are the exact definition of clutch. If you're a pro in the trades, you can join the MVP of rewards programs and become a trade master. Pros get exclusive members-only pricing, priority shipping, industry-leading customer service, and it's all absolutely free. Visit supplyhouse.com/TM to learn more about becoming a trade master. Use promo code SH5College for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com, promo code SH5College. Supply House, real people, real service. What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood Prediction Markets. It's not you against the house, it's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood Prediction Markets changes the game. It's people moving the action, so when momentum shifts, you can move with it. I always knew the game, but never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now I can actually take part live in a market powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator. Play by play, you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood, now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. Futures and clear swaps trading involves significant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives LLC, a registered futures commission merchant and swap firm. All right, here we go. One more segment here on Locked On SMU to round out the week. And going back to the basketball team, I saw something interesting when the guys were talking to the media after the game. And pretty bummed out experience after the first 4 loss to Dayton. I know a lot of you are checked out on the basketball team, but Corey Washington said something interesting. So Boopy, Jerron, and Corey were asked, how do you feel about the state of the program and where it's going, how much it's grown in your time here? And just to get back to the tournament and be a part of it, what did that mean? And Corey Washington, to me, had the quote of the night. I think we've paved the way. We set a standard here, and we just expect those guys to come out next year and get right back to it. And that should be the standard now. The standard of SMU basketball should be consistent tournament appearances. That's the standard. And that ultimately is why I'm a year behind you guys when it comes to firing Andy Enfield. Because under Andy Enfield, the program has set a new standard. And you don't just fire him after he sets the standard. You see if he can uphold the standard. So, you guys as SMU fans, me as somebody who covers SMU, is going to say, all right, this is the standard. The Mustangs should be a 20-win team minimum every single year going forward. They should be in the tournament most years going forward. I understand you're going to have a down year here and there. Right? Like you're not Duke, you're not Kentucky, right? You're not. Even Kentucky's missed the tournament a couple times in my lifetime. But you're not a blue blood, right? But most years, if I gave you a 6-year sample size, you should be in the tournament minimum 4. Okay? So that is the new standard. And if you kind of think about it, right? Okay, first year under Andy Enfield, 24 wins. Second year under Andy Enfield, 20 wins and a tournament appearance. Now we got to keep going up. And Corey said it perfectly. They set the standard because Andy had to go to the transfer portal and bring in a bunch of dudes. Like he couldn't rely exclusively on only what SMU had already there. So he had to go out and piece this thing together. And he'll have to do something similar next year, even though hopefully you get an improved Jermaine O'Neal Jr., continue growth from Jaden Toombs, guys like that are already with the program. Maybe Chance Puryear takes a leap. You see what Cam Lomax can give you in his freshman year, right? So, in terms of what Andy had to do to get this program back on its feet, he already did that by bringing in the vets. Now, everybody else behind them, the standard is now entrusted to you. If you're an SMU Mustangs player, the standard is entrusted to you. You have to continue to elevate the program. But the standard is the standard now. SMU is in the ACC, and SMU's got a ton of money. There is no reason why the SMU basketball program should be consistently falling short of the NCAA tournament year in and year out. If SMU does not go to the NCAA tournament next year, we will be talking on this show about finding a new head coach. We will. If the Mustangs don't go to the NCAA tournament next year. That's the conversation that we're going to be having. But that is because the program led by Andy Enfield reset the standard. And by the way, finally, it's about time that the program led by Andy Enfield reset the standard. This is a good thing that we have now reset the standard. But what cannot happen is you see that you get to the tournament and then you peak. Like, this shouldn't be the peak. This shouldn't be the be-all, end-all. I mean, am I calling for Elite Eight appearances every year? No. No, that's silly. But should this be a program in the heart of Dallas, Texas, that can every other year or even a little bit more get to the second weekend of the NCAA tournament? Yes. Yes, it should be. Absolutely should be. So Corey was right. They paved the way. They got this program back to where it needs to be. Dallas, Texas should have a viable NCAA tournament program. And they got it back there. But now, that shouldn't be a one-off. That shouldn't be the anomaly. That should be occurring with regularity with SMU. It absolutely should. So, the pressure now is on Andy. The pressure now is on the guys that are going to be rising to make sure that you continue having that same level of success. All right, that'll do it for Locked On SMU today. Appreciate you guys making us your first listen. Check out the Everydayer Club and sign up for free for 1 month with code MARCH. We'll talk to you guys next week. I'm Grayson Singleton. See you.